soldiers, they had superior firepower, they had the full backing of their government, and they lost. Their opponent wasn't a rival nation. It wasn't a rebel army. It was birds. This is the true story of the Great Emu War. And yes, that is genuinely what historians call it. To understand how a modern army ended up at war with a bird, you have to go back to the years right after World War I. Thousands of Australian soldiers came home from the trenches of Europe, and the government wanted to reward their service. Their solution: give these veterans land in Western Australia and turn them into wheat farmers. There was just one problem. Much of that land wasn't great for farming. It was dry, remote, and difficult to work. Many of these ex-soldiers had zero farming experience to begin with. And then, in 1929, the Great Depression hit, gutting the economy and putting even more pressure on these already struggling farmers to produce. As if things weren't hard enough, nature decided to pile on. Every year, emus, massive flightless birds native to Australia, standing nearly 2 meters tall, migrate inland in huge numbers during their breeding season. In 1932, roughly 20,000 of them arrived directly in the middle of Western Australia's wheat belt. 20,000. And they were hungry. The emus tore through wheat fields, trampled crops, and broke straight through the fences meant to keep pests out, which then let rabbits pour in too, causing even more damage. Desperate, the farmers sent a delegation to the Australian government. And remarkably, many of these farmers were themselves former soldiers. So their request was blunt and direct: send us machine guns. The government agreed. This wasn't some rogue operation. This was an official military deployment. They assigned Major G.P.W. Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery to lead the mission, along with 2 soldiers and 2 Lewis machine guns, weapons that had mowed down entire lines of infantry on the battlefields of World War I just over a decade earlier. On November 2nd, 1932, the operation began. Roughly 50 emus were spotted in the distance. Local farmers tried to herd the birds into range of the guns like driving cattle toward a pen. And this is where things immediately started falling apart. The machine guns jammed almost right away, and the emus, which nobody had apparently accounted for, turned out to be shockingly fast, capable of running up to 50 kilometers an hour and impossible to herd in one direction like livestock. The moment shooting started, the flock scattered in every direction at once, splitting into small, scattered groups that made the machine guns essentially useless. One officer later described it almost like the birds had a military strategy of their own. Small, independent units, breaking off, regrouping, evading. Over the following days, the results only got more embarrassing. In one particularly infamous attempt, soldiers tried ambushing a large gathering of emus near a dam. They opened fire, and after all that effort, confirmed only a dozen kills before the gun jammed again, and the rest of the flock escaped completely unharmed. By November the 8th, just 6 days in, the story had reached the Australian Parliament, and it did not go well for the military. Members of the House of Representatives openly mocked the operation. One ornithologist summed up the entire campaign with a line that has survived in the history books ever since, essentially describing the emus as having outmaneuvered the army with what he called guerrilla tactics. Facing growing public embarrassment, the military was pulled out, temporarily. But the crop damage hadn't gone away. so the farmers pushed for the operation to resume. Major Meredith and his men went back out for a second attempt in early December. The final tally, after nearly a month of engagement, was somewhere around 986 confirmed kills, using over 2,500 rounds of ammunition. That works out to roughly 2.5 bullets fired for every single bird killed, against a target that, by any measure, should not have been difficult to hit. Of the original 20,000 emus that had invaded the wheat belt, the vast majority simply walked away. The military never returned for a third attempt. Instead, the government tried a completely different approach. They started paying farmers a bounty for every emu they killed themselves. In just 6 months under this new system, farmers claimed more than 57,000 bounties, dramatically more effective than the entire military campaign combined. There's something genuinely worth sitting with here. An organized, well-armed, government-backed military force couldn't outmaneuver a bird with a brain the size of a walnut. Meanwhile, individual farmers, working alone with ordinary rifles and actual motivation, solved the problem the army couldn't. It's a strange little reminder that overwhelming force doesn't automatically mean victory. Sometimes you're just using the wrong tool for the job entirely. And today, nearly a century later, emus are thriving across Australia. They were never actually at risk of disappearing. If anything, they're the ones still telling this story. So the next time someone tells you the odds are impossible to beat, remember, an actual national army, with machine guns and military strategy, was defeated by birds that can't even fly. It sounds like a joke. It's not. It's one of the strangest, most true military records in modern history. And somehow, almost nobody's ever heard of it. If you want more true stories this strange, the ones history class conveniently skipped, subscribe. Because history is a lot weirder than anyone gives it credit for, and we're just getting started.